Have you ever had an awkward encounter with a stranger or an acquaintance of yours? They see you and your baby bump and approach you assuming that everything is going great. Is this your first? You must be so excited. Have you decorated the nursery yet? In a matter of a split second, you're trying to decide what and if and how much to share. Most likely, these questions and statements come from well intentioned people who are just completely unaware of your circumstances, your diagnosis. In today's episode, we will offer you 4 suggestions on how you can determine what your answers might be when these questions are asked. Hello, we're Jeff and
Tony Brabeck, the founders of Our Little Sparrows Pregnancy and Infant Loss Support. If you would like to know more about us and our organization, use the link in the description below.
Welcome to episode 10, everyone, of our new grief series, The Pregnancy Journey, grieving from diagnosis to the loss of your baby and beyond. All right, so before we get into our 4 suggestions on how to respond to those awkward questions, we're going to dive into the scenarios a little bit here, so to speak. So we're going to try to break it down for you as to what happens when these conversations hit, because they will happen. The grocery store, the bank, your church, well-intentioned people, right? In every aspect of your life that you know, and then well-intentioned people that you don't know, and you're just randomly, saying hi at the grocery store. It's definitely going to happen. So not all these things occur to everyone, but the nuances are there in these different scenarios for sure. So what does happen can take place in the blink of an eye. I mean, that's something that we're trying to convey here, like this left field stuff, and trying to just give you a little prep for these unexpected conversations.
So we're going to break it down, and all of these things that I'm going to go over can happen so quickly. And most likely, when someone approaches you and says something or asks you a question about your pregnancy, most of the time, at least for myself, it caught me off guard. And I remember looking at that person thinking, oh no, they're going to ask me a question about my pregnancy or my baby. And what am I going to say? We've gotten really bad news. We're treading water on how to balance life, living life, caring to term our baby, but also anticipating our baby's death.
Right.
So it's really tricky. It's very sensitive. And so people who just see your baby bump and get so excited for you and don't know what's going on, often they assume that everything is going great.
Right. Right. So, I mean, we have to go outside of our houses regardless. I mean, we can hunker down to a certain degree. For Tony and I, we obviously chose to go out. We went to restaurants and, we went to the grocery store. We did our stuff. We didn't really lean on other people, but you could. Like if you decide for yourself that you're like, man, I just don't want to put myself in that position, then obviously,
anyone.
then obviously this is where you lean on your small circle, right? Friends, family, loved ones that are willing to do the grocery shopping for you, that are willing to go to the bank, do what they can or whatever that might be. But at some point, you're probably going to have to go, do something, and you're just going to make a quick run to the grocery store to grab a couple things because you don't want to inconvenience that person that is willing to do your shopping, and then it's going to happen.
Right.
So that's, that. Yeah, it's going to happen.
Yeah, unfortunately. So what happens next? Without even realizing it, you're trying to determine your level of comfortability. Again, this is sensitive and it's tricky. In a split second, you are trying to make multiple decisions at one time. What it comes down to is, am I comfortable sharing with this person or not? There are some questions to ask yourself, and again, this happens so quickly. Am I going to see this person again? Is this a random stranger at the grocery store, or maybe this is a coworker that you see every now and then but don't see on a regular basis? That might affect your decision as to how much you share. If this is someone you will most likely see again, maybe a question to ask or something I ask myself is, do they need to know? Or would it help me for them to know? So if it's someone that you're going to see again, and would it just be easier for them to know? So that would be another question you could ask yourself. And another one, most importantly, is, do I feel safe with this person? You're trying to gauge as to, if I share my story with this person, is how is this person going to respond? Are they going to respond in kindness and sympathy, or are they going to be awkward and like try to get out of the conversation as fast as possible and basically run away? Because of course it's kind of a taboo subject, and that's your response is probably not something that they're anticipating. So in a matter of a split second, you're trying to determine how comfortable are you sharing your story. So, or maybe not sharing at all. So another thing that happens next is that checking my heart. Do I want to go there? Do I want to go to that emotional place and talk about it with this person who may be a stranger or an acquaintance? Is it safe for me to go there, or do I even want to go there? Sometimes I did and sometimes I didn't. It just depends on how I felt in that moment. Either way, whatever you choose to do, I think it's totally fine. If you don't want to share anything at all with that person, that's fine. If you do, it's totally okay. Or maybe you feel that it's upsetting to you that someone would be so bold and assume something about you without even really asking or inquiring about how you're doing. All right. Now, what do we do? We're going to go into 4 tips or suggestions that helped me navigate these difficult conversations, and I hope that they will also help you. The first tip is grace. Give yourself grace. What you want to share, and if you want to share, is up to you and at your level of comfortability in that moment. And grace for the other person as well. Remember, they mean well, and they have probably no clue as to what is going on in your life, and nor do they have a clue as to the gravity of their question or their statement to you. So we want to give them a little bit of grace as well. Mm-hmm. What helped me also is this next tip is to answer in the present. Say if they ask you, how are you doing? Are you really excited about your baby? It is possible, depending on the question or statement, that you can still speak truth without lying or revealing the entire story.
I like that.
An example.
Keep it simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like they would say, you must be so excited. And I would respond something like, yes, I'm so excited to feel her moving so much.
Right.
So there was truth, but it didn't have to go into the entire story of what was going on. Mm-hmm. And lastly, but not the least, consider it an educational opportunity. It does take involving sharing your story a little bit to whatever degree you're comfortable. But sharing your story kindly educates others that not all pregnancies are exciting and happy as we'd like to think. Again, you're weighing in on whether you feel safe with this person. So ultimately, it's up to you. You can decide what you'd like to share or not. Mm-hmm. It's your baby, it's your pregnancy journey, and you can set the tone for how you want that moment to be experienced for you.
Right. Yeah, we don't always get a choice of when to share, but we definitely always have the choice of how to share.
Or how we respond. So these awkward conversations can happen more often than we'd like. Each time it happened to me, my answer was different. It all depended on if I felt safe to share or not. Sometimes I shared with a complete stranger that I totally felt safe with. Other times I said what people wanted to hear and left it at that. You may receive a variety of responses. Some were welcome and others not so welcome. It is okay. We may not be able to change other people's response, but we can try and go easy on ourselves as this is uncharted territory. We hope these suggestions help you. Most of all, we want you to know you are not alone. You are loved. Your baby will always be cherished. We are here to support you in any way that we can.
Wow, that was really good. Don't forget to subscribe, you guys, and ring that bell so you can get alerts when we release episodes like this every week. We will continue along this grief series until we get to the end. So we'll see where it ends up. We're excited. If you liked what you saw in this episode, you can see another episode from our grief series by tapping or clicking on the box above. If you'd like to check out our weekly podcast, comes out every Sunday, please click or tap on the box below.